Right friends, welcome back to S&T Health and Environment. For 14th week, there are two issues. One is National Human Rights Commission served a notice on Union Commerce Ministry over private assurances given by the Union Commerce Ministry to US business advocacy group that India would go slow in granting compulsory licenses for domestic pharma companies. What is meant by compulsory licensing? We are going to deliberate in detail starting from intellectual property, and second important point for this week's discussion is Government of India notified new rules on solid waste management. The major change is extending them beyond municipal areas. So, these two things we are going to deliberate in this week's S&T Health and Environment. First one is NHRC. NHRC is a National Human Rights Commission. This is a statutory body and it served a notice on Union Commerce Ministry over private assurances given by it to US business advocacy group. That means the point here is with regard to going slow on compulsory licensing. I will come to it later, a little later, what is meant by compulsory licensing, and for giving compulsory licensing to pharma companies to manufacture essential drugs at cheaper prices, Union Commerce Ministry has given private assurance. Privately, it assured United States of America business groups. Privately, Union Commerce Ministry assured US business groups. That means we are not going to give compulsory licensing. So, you need not have any fear. Please come and invest in our country. We are going to be slow on compulsory licensing. So, this is the assurance given by Commerce Ministry to US Business Advisory Group, so as to build confidence among the investors to invest in India, right? And now National Human Rights Commission gave notice to Commerce Ministry, please give answer to the alleged allegation of this compulsory licensing. Before understanding compulsory licensing, you should understand what is intellectual property. Intellectual property is basically creation of the mind, something created out of our human brain, and the creations of the mind such as inventions. Somebody invented a mobile phone which is different from the available products in the market. That is invention. So, the creations of the mind such as inventions or literary or artistic works. Somebody has made a new film and somebody has written a book and somebody has painted an art, world famous art, and somebody has designed a symbol to differentiate one form with the other. These are all the creations of human brain. So, all the creations of human brain are intellectual property, and these creations are to be protected so that no one else should copy and emulate them. If somebody has invented a mobile phone with the new features, that should not be copied by somebody else. That type of protection is to be given. If somebody has written a beautiful book, that should not be copied. If somebody designed a trademark, somebody designed a logo, that should not be copied by somebody else. So, this is popularly known as, or you can say these are popularly known as intellectual property rights. And there are three types of intellectual property. One is patents. If somebody has invented a new product, then exclusive right granted to that fellow is patent. If somebody invented something which is altogether new, if somebody invented drug for some heart attack, if somebody invented a drug for cancer, that is his own invention, that is to be patented, that is to be patented for copying by somebody else for at least some period, that is patent right, right? So, patents are the rights granted for protecting the persons who invented something. Second is copyright. Copyright is basically right of the creators of literary and artistic works. SS Rajamouli has made Bahubali, no one should copy it. And somebody has written some good book, nobody should copy it. So these are all copyrights. That means this is the right over literary and artistic works, maybe books, paintings, films, sculptures, advertisements, etc. Third one is a trademark. It is a sign of distinguishing goods or services of one enterprise from those of others. Please look into this slide. Airtel has got one logo. Then similarly, Reliance Industries has got one logo. And similarly, GMR has got one logo. You should not copy it because these are basically used to distinguish one product with the other. So the protection granted for distinguishing various symbols is trademark. So patents for new inventions, copyrights for new artistic works, then trademark, that is for the logos for distinguishing one company with the other. So these three are known as intellectual property, and the inventors will be protected against copying by somebody else, and this is valid, or these are valid for a limited period. Normally patents are valid for 20 years, right? And please don't forget, World Intellectual Property Day is celebrated on April 26. And what about India? India, who looks after these intellectual property rights? And if you look at world as a whole, there is a WIPO, that is World Intellectual Property Organization, that is based in Geneva. And if you look at India, in India these intellectual property rights, that is patents, designs are nothing but copyrights, patents, designs, trademarks and geographical indications. You may ask, what is geographical indication? Kanchipuram saree, Darjeeling tea. So these are all examples of geographical indications. That means by telling the name of a place, it indicates a quality. So this is fourth one, geographical indication. So these patents, designs or copyrights, trademarks and geographical indications, these are all looked after in this country by CGPDTM. Please don't forget, Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademarks. This organization, which is headquartered in Mumbai, looks after the patents, designs, trademarks and geographical indications, right? And this is under Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and these are based on Patents Act of 1970, Trademarks Act of 1999, Geographical Indication of Goods Act of 1999, then Designs Act of 2000. So in India, CGPDTM under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry looks at intellectual property. And now come back to compulsory licensing. I will ask a straight question. Somebody has invented a cancer drug and he got a patent for 20 years, but he is selling that drug at rupees 1 lakh per each tablet. Somebody from USA invented a drug for cancer. He is selling that drug at rupees 1 lakh per tablet. Can India wait and watch as patients are dying because they are not able to afford that tablet cost of rupees 1 lakh per tablet? So as to avoid that situation, there is a clause which is known as this compulsory licensing. Though the patents are valid for 20 years, but after the passage of 3 years, if government feels that the purpose is not being served and common man are put into inconvenience because of patents, then governments can give compulsory licensing. What about TRIPS, that is Trade Related Intellectual Property Rights Agreement of World Trade Organization? Compulsory licensing is allowed under clause 31 if certain criteria is met. Similarly, as per Indian Patents Act of 1970, as per section 84 of India Patents Act, compulsory licensing can be granted after expiry of 3 years of the grant of patent. And please don't forget, normally patents are valid for 20 years, but after the passage of 3 years of expiry of a patent, central government, if it feels that there are sufficient justifications for issuing compulsory licensing, they can issue compulsory license. when the following conditions are met. First one is reasonable requirement of public have not met. The example is, as I have already told you, cancer medicine, that is one tablet, if it costs rupees 1 lakh, it is not reaching the common man. So there is a case in point, and under such circumstances, when reasonable requirements of public have not met, government can go for compulsory licensing after 3 years. Second one is patented invention is not available to the public at affordable price. When the invention is not available to the public at affordable price, then third one is when the patented invention is not worked in the territory of India. Under these three circumstances, government can grant compulsory licensing. So when government grants compulsory licensing, then Indian firms can manufacture those drugs in our country and they can sell at affordable price. So when there is justification with the public interest at large, then government can go for compulsory licensing. And if the government's assurance to the US Business Advisory Group that India will go slow on compulsory licensing is true, then the winners are US drug manufacturers, including Europe. Second is it will boost investors' confidence and more investments may come to India. Third is it is to satisfy multilateral organizations. Then losers are domestic manufacturers of drugs may not be in a position to manufacture generic drugs. Then second most important point is health care for diseases like cancer. They are already out of reach for common man and may become out of reach further for common people. And at the same time, more exploitation by foreign drug manufacturers may also take place. And whether it is true or not, let us wait for the Government of India's reply to National Human Rights Commission. Right? So this is all about intellectual property and compulsory licensing. Look at the second issue for this week. Government of India notifies new rules on solid waste management. Disposal of solid waste in especially towns and cities is the biggest problem in this country. And all of you are familiar with Devanor dumping ground fire in recent times. And at the same time, dying of fish in some lake in Bengaluru recently is also another case in point. Under these circumstances, this Government of India's new rules on solid waste management is a welcome step. This solid waste generated by various agencies is to be treated and recycled. Before going into the fact file, solid waste is normally classified into 4 types. There are several subgroups, I am not going into it, but in general, one class is biodegradable. This kitchen waste, normally vegetable, fruits waste and waste of food products, that is biodegradable. It can be easily degradable biologically and it can be converted into manure also. Second one is non-biodegradable. Example is plastic. Plastic is not biodegradable. If you keep it even for hundreds of years, it will not convert into any other product. Third one is hazardous. Hazardous products are harmful not only for humans but also animals. And hazardous products examples are this mosquito coils, then various paints. These are all examples of hazardous products. Then fourth one is inert material like building rubble. It cannot be decomposed and this inert material is basically the rubbish which is left over after dismantling of old buildings or old constructions. So the waste is generally categorized into biodegradable, non-biodegradable, hazardous waste and inert material. And fact file on waste generation in India, total waste generated in the country is 62 million tons annually, of which plastic constitutes 5.6 million tons. This is non-biodegradable, this constitutes around 6 million tons. Biomedical waste, that is 0.17 million tons. Then hazardous waste, that is harmful not only for human beings, but also for animal life also, that is 7.9 million tons. Then e-waste, nowadays we are using several electronic gadgets, and e-waste is 1.5 million tons. And if you look at the fact file, waste collected and treated is very much less in comparison to total waste generation, and in our country we generate 200 grams to 600 grams per person per day. Then waste generation will increase to 165 million tons in 2030 in comparison to 62 million tons at present, right? And salient features of this solid waste management rules, right? I have listed several important points. And now the change is, it is applicable beyond municipal areas and extend to urban agglomerations, census towns, notified industrial townships, and areas under the control of railways, airports, defense, and SEZs. Now, second important point is segregation of waste at source is mandatory. The waste is to be segregated. One is wet waste, second one is dry waste, third one is hazardous, and segregation is made mandatory, and ultimately this will put waste to wealth by recovery, reuse, and recycle. And the waste generators like households, like businesses, have to segregate in three forms. Whoever are generating waste, they have to segregate in three forms. One is wet, that is biodegradable. Please look into this slide. I have given here wet waste, that is biodegradable. Second one is dry waste. Third one is hazardous waste. And the generators of waste have to segregate into three forms. And here this segregated waste is to be handed over to authorized rag pickers, waste collectors, or local bodies, right? Then fourth point is integration of rag pickers. In every city and town, there are several rag pickers and waste dealers are there. They are working as informal people nowadays, and integration of rag pickers and waste dealers into the formal system is to be done by state governments and self-help groups. And the generator, that is households, have to pay user fee for waste collector, and at the same time, if you are not segregating the waste, as I have already told you, you have to segregate as wet, dry, and hazardous. If you are not segregating the waste, and at the same time, if you are doing littering, spot fine is to be imposed. And responsibility was also kept on manufacturers of diapers and sanitary napkins manufacturers. They have to provide the pouches so as to keep the used products. And at the same time, responsibility was also kept on resident welfare associations, gated communities, new townships. You may ask, what is a gated community? Gated community is the community which is close knit with boundary wall, and there may be 400, 500 apartments inside. So that is known as gated community, and the responsibility on resident welfare associations, gated communities, new townships, restaurants was increased, and they are made responsible for several activities. Another important change is new townships, group housing societies, gated communities, and institutes of areas greater than 5,000 square meters should make arrangement for treatment of biodegradable waste either through composting or biomethanation. Then they should hand over non-biodegradable waste to municipal authorities. That means biodegradable waste, they have to make own arrangements for making it compost, and the non-biodegradable waste is to be handed over to municipal authorities. Another important feature is the developers of SEZs, industrial estates should earmark 5% of total area or at least 5 plots or sheds for recovery and recycling facility. So these are the important stipulations, and the previous stipulations were of 2000. They were called Municipal Solid Waste Management Rules 2000, and they pertain to 2000 and applicable only to municipal areas. And what are the major changes? Now they are extended beyond municipal areas. Second major change is waste generator responsibility was fixed on waste generators. That means households. The responsibility will be there on businesses, households, whoever are generating waste. So waste generator is to segregate and store the waste in 3 separate streams. Then responsibility was fixed on gated communities. Then stipulation is kept to provide separate pouch on the manufacturers of sanitary napkins and diapers, and more responsibility on Ministry of Urban Development and Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers will promote marketing of compost. So these are the major changes when you look at it and compare it with the solid waste management rules of 2000. And finally, what are the challenges? Government notified beautiful solid waste management rules 2016, and the major challenges: poor health of municipal bodies. They are not only financially weak but also organizationally weak, and a lot depends on willpower of the state governments. Second important point, mindset of people in this country is another biggest problem. Hefty fines for non-compliance, because littering everywhere is the problem, and segregating the waste by the households is another biggest problem, because their mindset is to be changed and hefty fines are to be imposed so as to implement it in true letter and spirit. The third point is unorganized vendors or markets are the major areas of concern in urban areas, because several markets work in unauthorized way. Then fourth one is several slums exist in urban areas, and implementation of these regulations to these disadvantaged sections of society is the most difficult task. Then fifth one is availability of land in urban areas is another major problem. Then next point is, in urban areas, in almost all the states, several buildings come up without regulation and they get regulated subsequently. Can the municipal authorities implement rules under these circumstances? Because municipal authorities are not working with the required zeal to implement these type of instructions, and whether the municipalities will rise up to the occasion is the biggest challenge. Then if you look at the last point, corruption is the root cause of several problems in urban areas, and under these circumstances, implementing this solid waste management rules 2016 is not that an easy task. Only willpower by state governments will carry the task forward. Right friends, let us hope better sense to prevail among the people, whoever are governing the urban areas in this country. Right? With this, let us conclude S&T Health and Environment. Please do join for other modules. Have a nice day. Thank you.